Welcome back to Tiny Ninja, the Hidden Lineage. Thank you for joining me on another episode in our journey. The last episode, Tiny Ninja and his companions reached the legendary Tide Sanctuary, where they met the Keeper of the Tide and began learning the wisdom carried within the ancient waters. But before their training could truly begin, the Dominion arrived. Three elite warriors, the Abyssal Hunters, stepped from the smoke to challenge the protectors of the sanctuary. As steel met steel, the battle for the Tide Sanctuary began. Let's continue our story. The sound of colliding blades echoed across the cliffs. Tiny Ninja met the lead Abyssal Hunter head on. The force of the first strike sent both warriors sliding backward across the rain-soaked stone. Tiny Ninja steadied himself. The hunter didn't move an inch. Its glowing blue visor remained fixed on him, cold, calculating without emotion. Then it spoke. Combat analysis complete. Adjusting. Before Tiny Ninja could react, the hunter attacked again, faster. Its movements had changed completely. It had already learned from their first exchange. Tiny Ninja barely deflected the strike. It adapted. Another attack, another. Every movement became more precise, every strike more efficient. Ashara crashed into the second hunter, her staff smashing against its armored shoulder. The impact would have shattered bone. Instead, the hunter simply turned its head toward her. Threat acknowledged. It caught the end of her staff. With one violent twist, the weapon flew from her hands. Ashara rolled backward, drawing the short blade at her waist before the hunter could capitalize. "These things don't fight like Dominion soldiers," Kairo answered while crossing blades with the third hunter. "No, they fight like us." Above them, Dominion gunships circled. But something strange happened. None opened fire. They simply watched. Akari noticed immediately. "They're observing." Kairo nodded. "They're collecting data." Tiny Ninja heard those words. Immediately he changed his fighting style. Instead of relying upon speed, he became unpredictable. He abandoned patterns. He abandoned combinations. He fought entirely through instinct. The lead hunter paused. Its visor flickered. Prediction failure. Tiny Ninja smiled beneath his mask. You can't calculate the human spirit. For the first time, he gained the advantage. Behind the battle, the great doors of the Tide Sanctuary slowly opened. A calm voice echoed across the cliffs. "Enough." Every stream flowing through the surrounding valley suddenly changed direction. Water rose into the air. The rain itself stopped falling. Tiny Ninja looked toward the entrance. Standing there, surrounded by spiraling ribbons of water, was the Keeper of the Tide. Her long silver-white hair drifted as though underwater. Her sapphire robe shimmered like moonlight upon the sea. In one hand she carried an elegant crystal staff. Her expression was peaceful, yet every person present, including the Dominion, felt its authority. She stepped forward. "You stand upon sacred ground." The lead Abyssal Hunter slowly turned toward her. His visor brightened. Keeper identified. Secondary objective acquired. The Keeper sighed softly. "I had hoped we would have more time." She gently tapped her staff against the stone. The entire coastline answered. Water erupted from the cliffs. Great walls of ocean rose into the sky, not to destroy, but to protect. They curved around the sanctuary like living glass, separating the battlefield from the villages beyond. Tiny Ninja stared in amazement. "The water!" Kairo smiled. "The sanctuary is alive!" The Keeper looked toward Tiny Ninja. Her voice remained calm, despite the chaos surrounding them. "Ember Bearer, you have arrived sooner than the occurrence foretold." Tiny Ninja bowed respectfully without lowering his guard. "I'm sorry our first meeting had to be like this." A faint smile crossed her face. Every Keeper meets history in the middle of a battle. The lead Abyssal Hunter raised its blade once more. Its voice echoed across the battlefield. new directive captured the Ember Bearer, killed the Keeper. For the first time, the Keeper's peaceful expression disappeared. She raised her staff. The waters surrounding the sanctuary began to glow. Tiny Ninja instinctively stepped beside her. Akari moved to his right. Kairo stood to her left. Ashara retrieved her staff and planted it firmly into the stone. The four heroes formed a wall before the sanctuary. The Keeper smiled, not because the odds were in their favor, but because, for the first time in centuries, she was no longer standing alone. The Abyssal Hunter lunged without hesitation. His blades swept toward the Keeper with frightening precision. Tiny Ninja intercepted the strike. Steel screamed against steel as sparks burst across the rain-soaked stone. The impact sent both warriors sliding apart. The hunter tilted its head, almost curious. You continue to interfere. Tiny Ninja lowered his stance. You're gonna have to get through me first. I have calculated that probability, and it is inefficient. Tiny Ninja laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. Without warning, the hunter disappeared. Not vanished, moved. Its speed was like anything Tiny Ninja had encountered. He barely caught the second strike. The force drove him to one knee. Behind him, the Keeper raised her staff. A stream of water wrapped itself around the hunter's blade. The water hardened instantly into crystal clear ice. The hunter pulled. Nothing moved. For the first time, its emotionless voice hesitated. Unexpected. The Keeper smiled gently. The ocean has always been difficult to conquer. With a graceful motion of her staff, the ice shattered into thousands of shimmering fragments. Each fragment became a ribbon of water that spiraled around the hunter, forcing it backward. Across the battlefield, Ashara found herself pressed against the cliff by the second hunter. Every strike of her staff was answered perfectly. It anticipated every feint, every counter, every adjustment. Ashara grinned. I've met smarter opponents. The hunter responded instantly. Relevant. She smiled wider. You can predict my movements. The hunter stepped forward. Correct. Ashara suddenly threw her staff aside. The hunter paused. Weapon discarded. Ashara closed the distance and drove her shoulder into its chest with all her strength. The unexpected move knocked the hunter off balance. She followed with a powerful elbow strike to its helmet before reclaiming her staff. Kairo couldn't help but smile. Improvisation. Ashara winked. They can't calculate, stubborn. Nearby, Akari danced through the battlefield with remarkable speed. Her pink scarf flowed behind her as she moved between fallen pillars. The third hunter pursued relentlessly. Every time it closed the distance, Akari vanished behind another column. Another ruined wall, another burst of sea mist. The hunter stopped. Visual contact lost. Akari smiled from above. Down here. The hunter looked downward. She dropped from the rooftop instead. Her twin blades struck its shoulders before she rolled safely behind it. The hunter slowly turned. Ambush successful. Akari blinked. Did it just compliment me? Tiny Ninja laughed while parrying another strike. I don't think it knows how not to. I don't know, that was weird. Above them, the Dominion gunships continued circling. Still, they refused to fire. The Keeper watched them carefully. They're waiting. Kairo nodded. They aren't here to win. They're here to observe. The Keeper's expression became thoughtful. Then we must teach them the wrong lesson. Tiny Ninja looked toward her. What do you mean? She smiled. Make them believe this sanctuary is stronger than it truly is. The Keeper lifted her crystal staff high above her head. The rivers surrounding the sanctuary answered immediately. Water surged upward from every stream, every waterfall, and every pool. The ocean itself rose beyond the cliffs. The heroes watched in amazement as thousands of shimmering streams intertwined above the battlefield. The water became dragons, not living creatures, living currents. Each one formed entirely from flowing water and glowing blue light. I circled above the sanctuary before diving toward the Dominion gunships. The pilots panicked. Unknown energy signatures! Evasive maneuvers! The water dragons never struck the aircraft. Instead, they surrounded them, blinding sensors, disrupting communications, turning the skies into a maze of living currents. One by one, the gunships withdrew toward the sea. Ashara smiled. I like her. The keeper laughed softly. They'll be back. I know, but now they'll return cautiously. The battlefield finally grew quiet. The three Abyssal Hunters regrouped. Their armor bore fresh scars. The lead hunter looked directly at Tiny Ninja. His visor pulsed once, then twice. Combat assessment complete. Tiny Ninja rested his sword upon his shoulder. So, the hunter answered calmly. The Ember Bearer exceeds projected capability. Yeah, I get that a lot, Tiny Ninja replied. The hunter ignored the remark. Retreat authorized. Ashara frowned. You're just leaving? Our objective was observation. Mission complete. The three hunters stepped backward toward the shoreline. A strange blue light surrounded them. The ocean responded. The waves rose around their bodies like protective hands. Within seconds, they disappeared beneath the water without a splash. Tiny Ninja stood in disbelief. They just walked into the ocean. Kairo nodded. They serve the abyss. The sea itself answers them. Silence returned. The keeper slowly lowered her staff. The waters around the sanctuary calmed once more. She turned toward the four companions. You have fought well. But this... She looked toward the endless horizon. Was their only introduction. Tiny Ninja followed her gaze. Far beyond the retreating storm clouds, dozens of tiny black shapes appeared upon the horizon. Ships. Too many to count. The Dominion fleet had arrived. The keeper spoke quietly. The true battle begins now. The Dominion fleet stretched across the horizon. Warships, dropships, submersibles facing between the crashing waves. The ocean itself seemed to disappear beneath black steel. Tiny Ninja stood silently beside the keeper. So many. The keeper nodded. They're not here to attack. Ashara looked at her. What? The keeper's eyes never left the fleet. They're searching. They know the sanctuary exists. They don't yet know how to reach it. Kairo folded his arms. Which means they'll probe our defenses. They'll study every response. They'll adapt. Tiny Ninja sighed. Just like the hunters. The keeper smiled sadly. Exactly like the hunters. One by one, the sanctuary bells stopped ringing. Silence returned. The rivers resumed their gentle flow. The glowing blue waters gradually became calm once again. The keeper turned toward the companions. Come. There are things you must see. She led them deeper into the tide sanctuary, far beyond its beautiful gardens, past ancient libraries, through halls carved from brilliant white stone. Eventually, they reached enormous bronze doors. Each stood nearly 50 feet high. Upon them had been carved the history of the sanctuaries. Tiny Ninja slowly walked closer. You recognized the 5 sanctuaries. Harmony, Tide, Stone, Sky, and Garden. But there was something else. A sixth carving. Broken. Its image had been deliberately chiseled away. Tiny Ninja frowned. What was here? The keeper remained silent. Kairo looked toward her. You never told me. She nodded. Because I had hoped no one would ever need to know. Ashara crossed her arms. I think now would be a good time. The keeper placed her hand upon the bronze doors. They slowly opened. Beyond them lay the oldest chamber in the sanctuary. Unlike the rest, this room wasn't beautiful. It was solemn. At its center rested a massive stone table. Around it stood 6 empty seats. Not 5. 6. Tiny Ninja noticed immediately. There were 6 keepers. There were. The keeper answered quietly. Long before mankind recorded history, there were 6 sanctuaries, 6 guardians, 6 keepers. Akari looked around the chamber. What happened? The keeper's expression became distant. The abyss. The room fell silent. She slowly walked toward the empty 6th chair. Unlike the others, it had been shattered. Only fragments remained. This was the Abyss Sanctuary. Tiny Ninja's eyes widened. There was an Abyss Sanctuary? There was. It did not protect darkness. It restrained it. The companions exchanged uneasy glances. The keeper continued. The Creator appointed a keeper whose duty was unlike all the others. Not to nurture, not to teach, not to heal, but to stand watch. Forever. Ashara spoke quietly. Watch over what? The keeper looked directly into Tiny Ninja's eyes. The deepest prison ever created. Tiny Ninja felt the ember grow warm again. Leviathan. The keeper slowly nodded. No. Something even older. Nobody spoke. Even Kairo appeared surprised. Leviathan found the prison? It did not create it. It merely claimed it. Akari whispered, So what's inside? The keeper answered honestly, I don't know. No keeper living today knows. The knowledge died with the last Abyss Keeper. Tiny Ninja slowly walked around the ancient chamber. The walls were covered in names, thousands of names. Every keeper, every guardian, every generation. Then one section had been violently scratched away. Not by time, by claws, long, deep, violent. Tiny Ninja placed his hand beside one of the marks. They're enormous. The keeper nodded. They appeared the day the Abyss Keeper disappeared. Ashara looked toward the broken chair. So there isn't an Abyss Keeper anymore. The keeper closed her eyes. There hasn't been one for over 1,000 years. The realization settled over everyone. Tiny Ninja finally understood. The prison has been unguarded. The keeper answered softly. Yes. And now...
We'll be back after a quick break.
Oh. Focus tight, blade in hand. Stand alone, make my stand. Mind stay sharp, heart stay cold. Tiny Ninja never fold. Blade mode, locked in tight. One clean move in the fight. No delay, no reload. Tiny Ninja blade mode. Blade mode.
Abyssal Prime has it, and something, what we'd call the Leviathan, lives within it. Suddenly, a young Tide Guardian burst into the chamber. Keeper! He struggled to catch his breath. The Dominion fleet. It's stopped. Ashara frowned. Stopped? Every ship, they're just waiting. The keeper's calm expression disappeared. They're listening. Tiny Ninja looked confused. Listening for what? Before anyone could answer, the entire sanctuary trembled. Not violently, slowly, deliberately, as though something unimaginably massive had brushed against the ocean floor. Every stream in the chamber stopped flowing. The pools became perfectly still. Then, for the first time, everyone heard it. Not with their ears, inside their minds. A voice, deep, ancient, cold. Tiny Ninja. Tiny Ninja staggered backward. His hand instinctively gripped the ember. The voice spoke again, this time clearer. Come to me. The chamber fell silent. Tiny Ninja slowly looked toward the keeper. You heard it? She nodded. Every face in the room had changed. Even Kairo looked shaken. The keeper spoke only one sentence, a sentence that changed everything. It knows your name. Tiny Ninja couldn't move. The ancient voice still echoed inside his mind. Not through his ears, not through the ember. It was as though something had reached into his very thoughts. Come to me. The words lingered long after they had been spoken. Tiny Ninja slowly steadied his breathing. It knew my name. The keeper looked at him with growing concern. It should not. Kairo stepped forward. The ember has never reacted like this before. Tiny Ninja placed a hand over his chest. It's different. It isn't trying to frighten me. It's... He struggled to explain it. Calling me. Silence settled over the chamber. The keeper walked toward the great pool at the center of the hall. She rested both hands upon her crystal staff. The sanctuary will answer. She closed her eyes. The waters began to glow, softly at first, then brighter. Images slowly formed across the surface, not memories, the present. The Dominion fleet remained anchored beyond the cliffs, exactly where the scouts had reported. None advanced, none retreated. Every vessel faced the sanctuary, waiting. Ashara frowned. They're buying time. Kairo nodded. They're waiting for orders. The keeper's expression darkened. No, they're waiting for permission. The water changed again. The vision descended beneath the ocean, past coral forest, past ancient shipwrecks, past the reach of sunlight, deeper, far deeper, until the sea became nothing but blackness. Then lights, blue, thousands of them. An enormous underwater city slowly emerged. Its towers rose from the ocean floor like black mountains. Machines moved through the water without sound. Factories continued building. The Dominion had not merely occupied the abyss, it had built an empire there. Tiny Ninja whispered, So, this is where they came from. The keeper slowly shook her head. No, this is where they became something else. The vision continued. At the center of the city stood a colossal fortress. Unlike the rest of the Dominion architecture, the structure looked alive. Its walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Massive mechanical tendrils disappeared into the darkness below. The companions watched in stunned silence. Then a single figure entered the chamber. Tall, armored, every movement deliberate. Blue light flowed beneath black armor like veins beneath skin. Ashara immediately recognized him. The commander. The keeper nodded. Abyssal Prime. He approached an enormous wall of black water. Without speaking, he knelt. No one had ever seen a Dominion commander kneel. Tiny Ninja narrowed his eyes. To whom? The answer came instantly. The water moved. Two colossal sapphire blue eyes opened within the darkness. Nothing else could be seen. Only those eyes, watching, waiting, calculating. The companions instinctively took a step backward, even though it was only a vision. Abyssal Prime lowered his head. My sovereign. His voice echoed through the chamber. The Ember Bearer has reached the Tide Sanctuary. For several moments, nothing happened. Then the ocean itself seemed to vibrate. A voice emerged, ancient, measured, patient. Not angry, certain. I know. The ninja's heart began pounding. The voice was unmistakable. The same voice that has called his name. The keeper immediately ended the vision. The waters returned to normal. She took a slow breath. I had hoped you would not hear it until much later. Tiny Ninja looked toward her. That was Leviathan? Yes. It has become aware of you. Ashara folded her arms. And now what? The keeper looked toward the sanctuary ceiling. Now it begins planning. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. Not violent, heavy, like the footsteps of a giant. A Tide Guardian rushed through the doors. Keeper! The Dominion fleet is moving! Everyone turned. Another Guardian entered. The eastern currents have collapsed. A third followed moments later. The barriers surrounding the sanctuary have weakened. The keeper looked toward Tiny Ninja. It wasn't the fleet. It was never the fleet. Tiny Ninja frowned. What do you mean? They attacked. The currents themselves. Kairo slowly understood. They've been studying the sanctuary, looking for weaknesses. The keeper nodded. For centuries, and today, they found one. She walked toward Tiny Ninja. The Tide Sanctuary cannot remain hidden much longer. The Dominion will return, and when they do, they won't send hunters. They'll send an army. Tiny Ninja looked around at the peaceful sanctuary. The children playing near the streams, the elderly tending gardens, the keepers quietly protecting their home. He tightened his grip on his sword. Then we help them prepare. The keeper smiled. I was hoping you would say that. Ashara planted her staff against the floor. The rebels know how to build defenses. Kairo nodded. I'll train anyone willing to fight. Akari stepped beside Tiny Ninja. I'll train those who don't believe they can. Tiny Ninja smiled. We're not just here to protect the sanctuary. We're here to give it hope. The keeper looked at each of them, then bowed. Not as a ruler, not as a watcher, but as an equal. The Tide Sanctuary welcomes you, guardians. Far beneath the endless ocean, Abyssal Prime stood motionless. A Dominion officer approached. My commander, the sanctuary has begun preparing. Abyssal Prime looked toward the darkness beyond the fortress windows. Good. The officer appeared confused. You expected this? They are becoming exactly what the sovereign predicted. And what is that, my lord? Abyssal Prime answered without emotion. Hope. The officer hesitated. Isn't that dangerous? Abyssal Prime turned. For them, yes. Thank you for listening to Tiny Ninja, the Hidden Lineage. Tiny Ninja and his companions have survived their first encounter with the Abyssal Hunters, but the battle for Tide Sanctuary has only just begun. As Leviathan's influence spreads beneath the ocean, our heroes now face a challenge unlike any before. Not simply defeating an enemy, but preserving hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to follow the podcast and share it with someone who enjoys drama epic fantasy, rich world building, and character driven adventures. If you'd like to help support the show, you'll find the donation link in the channel description. Every contribution helps create new episodes, artwork, music, and expand the world of Tiny Ninja the Hidden Lineage, as well as hardware and recording time and areas. To everyone who has already donated, thank you. Your support truly keeps the show going, and I'm incredibly grateful that you're helping bring this story to life. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube at Tiny Ninja the Hidden Lineage, where you'll find episode artwork, character shorts, cinematic visuals, and content that expands the world between podcast episodes. Until next time, walk in harmony, protect with compassion, stand with courage, lead with humility. Where hope endures, the hidden lineage lives.